How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from More Swim 1000. Today is December 6th, 2020, and I know why you clicked on this video. It's to see if there will be a major Midwest blizzard going into next week. So, as you can see, based off of the GFS model, you see a pretty large swath of snow extending from Nebraska all the way to Wisconsin and Minnesota as well. So, your first questions might be, what are the chances of this happening? How powerful this will be? Well, I'll answer that right now. But first, let's go over the timing of this. And right now, I know I usually say that I don't like to go beyond 5 days. However, both the GFS model and the European model are agreeing that some type of low pressure system will form within 5 days, going around December 10th, just before next weekend. So, or this weekend, whatever you want to call it. It's Sunday right now, um, but yeah, there could be a potential snowstorm going into next week. So in terms of the timing of this, you see there's a low pressure right around the southwest United States, and to begin, it starts right around the Pacific, which is quite odd for to see a low pressure this far south during the winter season, since usually there's a dominant high pressure that just dominates the southwest Pacific region. However, we're seeing a little bit of energy and a low pressure system move to the southwestern Pacific region, and it's as a result of this huge mid-latitude cyclone that's circulating around the northwest Pacific or in the northern Pacific Ocean, and it's bringing a lot of low pressure systems further, and a lot of energy overall to the United States, to a point where some of that energy moved towards the southwestern portion of the United States, and it sort of combined with this subtropical ridge that gave it a little bit of energy to survive even on its trek on westward. So that low pressure manages to get itself together as it moves more and more to the east, I meant to say. And then you see that just to the northwest of it, there's a piece of energy from this mid-latitude cyclone that's circulating around the northwest Pacific, and it's going to bring a little bit of snowy weather in the northwest Pacific for one thing, and a lot of rainy weather went closer to sea level. However, that eventually that energy and this broad area of low pressure will move further to the east, to the point where it'll interact with this subtropical low that was just at the southwestern portion of the United States, and this low pressure system will move to the north as a result of this ridge that's expected to dominate the eastern half of the United States going into next week, and it'll move northward along with this low pressure system to a point where they're going to interact and combine to create something potentially very strong and potentially a blizzard in the Midwest going into next week. And this storm's energy will be enhanced by just a strong instability that's going to be behind it, because as you can see, this low pressure system is going to come from relatively warm waters of the southern, or I shouldn't say southern, but middle of the Pacific Ocean, just off the coast of Baja California, Mexico, and it's going to interact with this sort of Alberta Clipper. I'll say this low pressure is going to move over the Alberta area, where it's going to deal with a lot of higher elevations, and a lot of that air that was forced to rise as a result of the mountains will sink, bringing a lot of cold air with it. And that cold air will interact with this very warm and humid subtropical ridge, rapidly intensify this storm into potentially a blizzard. So, you might be asking, what are the chances of this, and what possibilities might occur, and what changes might occur to a forecast? Well, it's very interesting, because I've been noticing that the GFS is taking a more stronger and a more it's more lenient on turning this northward earlier as opposed to later, which is a solution that the European model is leaning towards. And the reason why is because the GFS is expecting a little bit more of a pronounced dip in the jet stream, which would mean that the winds, rather than go from west to east, which is typical for jet for the jet stream to do, the GFS is leaning more towards a more pronounced dip, which would pretty much turn those winds from south to north to the point where this storm is more likely to turn much more northward and um, at a quicker time period. Compare that to the European, where the European isn't as lenient as bringing as strong of a jet stream dip, and the jet stream dip, rather than having a pronounced dip that would shift the winds from south to north, the jet stream's dip in the European model has been more of a straight easterly to westerly direction. It does dip a little bit. I'm not saying that the dip is unnoticeable in the European model. However, it's a lot less pronounced than what the GFS model is saying. And what that means is that we're more likely to see a weaker storm based off the European model and a turn up northward later during the week, closer to the eastern half of the US, where potentially more of the Great Lakes region will be affected, and potentially the Northeast if this turns just late enough. Um, Compare that to GFS, where the GFS is leaning towards strengthening this earlier and turning this northward up earlier to the point where more of the core Midwest states will experience impacts from this. So there's still a lot of uncertainty. We need to see how far that jet stream dips. To show you the dip, just take a look at this map where the European, yes, it has a decent dip. However, a lot of the blues are still up northward in Canada. It isn't really dipping very far south to interact with this warmer air that would create that unstable air and create that convection to strengthen this storm. However, if you compare it to GFS, you're going to see that the GFS's dip is more pronounced. You see the cold air dipping a little bit more than the European model, and you see a slight negative tilt in terms of the geopotential hype, which and when you see a negative tilt where you see some slightly warmer temperatures just north of the slightly colder temperatures, that means that bad weather is very likely and a strengthening storm is very likely when you see a negative tilt like that, and a much stronger storm. So as a result of this more pronounced dip, the GFS is expected to take this storm up northward faster and strengthen it more than what the European is saying. So we just have to wait and see, because there's still a lot of uncertainty with how far south this jet stream will dip, and it really all depends on how much and it really all depends on the position of this mid-latitude cyclone that's currently located in the Pacific Northwest, because the position will be important with that mid-latitude cyclone, because it'll determine the position of some of the low pressure systems that will originate from that mid-latitude cyclone. So if we take a look at the entire North American map right here, you see that let me show you guys the radar so you get a better idea of where that mid-latitude cyclone is. This is where the mid-latitude cyclone is. Well, actually, no, let me go further back. So this is where the mid-latitude cyclone I'm talking about is. It's quite strong at 950 millibars, but it's typical for low pressure systems to be that low, that far up north, where it deals with a lot of instability, especially during the winter. But you see it's quite a strong storm, but then it's not only the storm itself that's strong. You see that it's spiraling a lot of rain bands towards Canada, and eventually it will hit the Northwest Pacific, bringing quite a pretty big of rain event and snow event, especially in the higher elevations of the Northwest Pacific. But the position of it will determine where all these low pressure systems that originate from the mid-latitude cyclone position itself. And if these low pressure systems position itself in a way that encourages more of a jet stream dip, and that the low pressure systems will move further southward, that will mean that the jet stream dip will be more pronounced and we'll see a stronger storm that will more likely turn northward earlier and quicker than what the European is saying, and more than likely we'll see a snowstorm in the Midwest. However, if we see a little bit less of a jet stream dip, where the jet stream winds are more from an easterly to westerly direction rather than a south to northerly direction, then we're more likely to see a weaker storm, but it will more than likely affect the Great Lakes region and potentially the Northeast. We still have to wait and see. So there's a lot of uncertainty with this. However, based off of what we're seeing, it seems like both the European and the GFS model are agreeing that some sort of low pressure system will form going into next week. So definitely keep a watch of that pretty much all throughout the United States, because it's still unknown who exactly will be impacted, but it seems like the scenario is leaning towards a pretty strong blizzard, potentially some occurring somewhere in the United States. I don't want to use the word blizzard yet because it's still unknown how strong this will be, because like I said, if that jet stream dip is less pronounced or we see less instability, then it's less like far let it's unlikely that we'll see a blizzard. However, it seems like some sort of snow event is likely from this, and its impact could potentially range from northeast all the way to Midwest. So we just have to keep in mind where this mid-latitude cyclone positions itself over the next several days, what occurs, and where these rain bands position itself, because that could be important in determining the forecast of this. So my battery's running out. I should probably go now, unfortunately, but just keeping watch throughout the United States. But I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like if you like this video, make sure to subscribe if you like this content, and I hope you guys have a good day and a good night whenever you're watching this. And make sure to watch my videos every day at around 1 o'clock. I'll upload them. So I hope you guys have a good day.